Good morning. For this week, we are working on the week 24 modules. So to find your assignments, you can go into the week 24 slides. On day 1, so Monday or Tuesday, depending if you are 1AC or 3BD, you're going to complete the Danger of a Single Story TED Talk. And then on Thursday, Friday, you'll do the Danger of a Single Story Choice Response. Just a reminder that the week 25 progress report period ends Monday, March 8th. Any work posted between weeks 20 to 24 will not be accepted after that date. So anything up until that date needs to be submitted in order to earn credit. Okay, so for day 1, so the 1st and the 2nd of March, you are going to take attendance and then do the Danger of a Single Story TED Talk. You'll be comprehending the speech, The Danger of a Single Story, by identifying examples of single stories and making connections to the speech. And then you'll analyze the author's purpose by identifying the central idea of the speech and providing examples to show how logos, ethos, or pathos was used to develop the central idea. So we're building on those ideas of those rhetorical appeals in speeches. So we started by looking at target audiences in commercials, and then we looked at speeches and identified the impact of logos, ethos, and pathos. And now finally you're looking at a complete speech and how she tailored her message to her audience in order to be persuasive. So you're going to do the TED Talk Ed Puzzle, and you can follow this link if you want. However, I would suggest going into your modules, opening the Danger of a Single Story TED Talk Ed Puzzle, and this is what you will be submitting. So the Ed Puzzle is only part of it, so you'll click this first link. It says in the directions, watch the speech, The Danger of a Single Story by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and answer the questions in the Ed Puzzle. So I'll just click on that. It brings you right to the Ed Puzzle. There are 14 questions in the Ed Puzzle. Some are very simple, some are more open-ended, but they're all lower level recall or comprehension just to give you an understanding of the speech. And then your formative assessment at the end of the class is to come back to this document and answer the 2 higher level questions. What is the central idea of this speech, The Danger of a Single Story? And it says consider her purpose for persuading her audience. We're reviewing those key terms. And then finally, does Adichie develop her speech mostly through ethos, logos, or pathos? And you need at least one specific example. So one specific thing she said in her speech that was convincing, and was that an example of ethos, logos, or pathos? If that's a struggle for you, you're still having trouble identifying ethos, logos, or pathos, and I would assume a lot of you are having trouble with that still, you can use this document, How to Identify Ethos, Logos, and Pathos. I created this document just as an easy, quick check, so hopefully it's helpful. I think it's helpful. So the first page is how to identify for logos. You're looking for facts, statistics, relevant examples, arguments that make assertions. An assertion is when you're taking an opinion and stating it as fact, and then backing it up with evidence. References to laws, contracts, or oaths. And just remember, logos often enhances ethos or your credibility as a speaker. So there is some gray area. So just make sure you're identifying the example and stating why. Ethos is references to right versus wrong, just versus unjust. So if you think in logos, you might reference a law that also might tell you what is right or wrong. So there's where you have that weird gray area. Ethos is also ideas or phrases that relate to the character and credibility of the speaker. So what is their background knowledge of the topic? Do they have any personal connections or personal stories? Any guiding beliefs or statements relating to community, nation, ideology, or morals? Because if a speaker can relate to you about those principles or beliefs, you're probably more likely to trust him or her or agree with him or her. And then finally, pathos. Remember, P-A-T-H comes from the word empathy. So it's anything the author or speaker is saying to try to get you to have empathy for them. So it's things that are evoking emotional responses from you. So look for words that appeal emotions, convey an emotional tone, emotionally evoking examples, or stories of personal events. And again, those might be personal, so again, that might connect to that credibility, all that gray area. Okay, for day 2, again, you'll take attendance, and then you're going to do the Danger of a Single Story Choice Response. So this is Thursday or Friday, depending on when you have class. And for that, you have 3 options. So this is taking that idea from the danger of a single story and how we don't want to use a single story of someone to stereotype or not paint the full picture, and reflecting on that idea. So your first choice is to write a personal original poem that connects to the central idea and the danger of a single story. And that would discuss your own experiences growing up and how they're related to the single story. So essentially you're using the poem to tell your full story so that people couldn't hypothetically tell only one story about you. There's an optional format on the next page. So in the last part of Adichie's speech, she uses these stems to tell her full story. So she talks about, like, what if my roommate knew blah, blah, blah about me? So she says, I grew up, and she tells where she grew up, what that was like at an early age. So if you wanted, you can use all or some of these stem starters. And then she ended with, what if my roommate, or what if so-and-so told me about, what if my roommate knew about? So you can kind of fill in those blanks. You don't have to use everyone, it's just a suggestion. You don't have to use that format at all if you don't want to. But that tells you about the length of your poem. I'm looking for kind of like 16 to 20 lines. The second option is kind of more of a connection response. What are the dangers of a single story? Write a 5 to 8 paragraph response connecting Adichie's main purpose and message of her speech to examples from any text we've read in class so far. So Hope to Spare Memory, the speech by Elie Wiesel, The Red Convertible, which was about Henry and his brother Lyman, and Henry goes to Vietnam and then comes back with what we assume is PTSD. Or On the Rainy River by Tim O'Brien, where Tim is drafted and has to make the decision to go to Vietnam or not. You might also connect to current events or personal experiences. So that's kind of more of a reflection on the speech itself and then making connections, whereas option 3 is a personal response. So you can write about a time you were impacted by a single story in 8 to 10 sentences. This one's a little bit longer than the connection response because it's personal. It shouldn't be as hard to come up with like the details or examples. So you might write about a time you felt misunderstood because people labeled you based on a single story, how you were personally stereotyped, or how you learned to stereotype others, or how you learned to kind of tell a single story about a specific group of people, maybe based on what the media fed you, what society fed you, or just, she tells the story of her houseboy and how he was poor, and that was her single story about her. She couldn't believe that his family members could create something because she only had this one vision of them. All right, so 3 options. You're choosing 1. The rubric is pretty straightforward. Did you complete the task completely and fully and thoughtfully based on the criteria given in the examples? And did you go above and beyond in your details, explanations, and information? So this will be a really quick, easy rubric for me to get through. And hopefully it's just something for you to respond and reflect on a really interesting, thought-provoking speech.